So how do you demand money from the insurance company? I'm Chase. This is Joel. We're attorneys here at Williams, Elleby, Howard & Easter. And today we're going to talk to you about how do you go about demanding money from the insurance company. So Joel, you're hurt, you're in a car wreck, something bad happens. How do you demand money from the insurance company?
Yeah, so before you start demanding anything, you need to get all your ducks in a row and gather certain evidence, materials like medical records, medical bills, accident reports, 911 calls, photographs, all these things to support your claim to show the insurance company that it was not your fault and why they should pay you.
Right, and it's always interesting because you have to find out, right, who is the insurance company? Car wrecks, it's kind of easy. You can look at the police report, you can look at it and see, okay, Joel hit me, I see that he's got State Farm, so you got to find out who the insurance company is. Got to call them, put them on notice, let them know that, hey, this happened, here's the evidence, the information that you have to gather. And once you gather that, you have to know, well, what is it that you're going to demand? What does that mean? When I demand something, what does that mean? Well, it's your medical bills, right? I have this conversation with a lot of folks. A lot of times in Georgia, we have what's called the collateral source rule. And I think we've done videos on that as well. It's the gross amount of your medical bills that you can demand, not what you pay, what your insurance pays, what your out-of-pocket is, whatever they charge, that's what you can demand, right? So it's a medical bills, it's lost wages, if you miss time from work, you can demand that. Even if you have to use sick leave or vacation days, you still had to use those, days, that time away from work that you wouldn't have to use otherwise, so you can seek compensation for it. And then of course is the pain and suffering, which is the intangible, right? It's the, how did this impact you sort of in the loss of enjoyment of life, fear, shock, anxiety, all that type of stuff. So that's kind of the items of damages that you have to think of in considering when you're going to demand demand a certain amount from the insurance company.
Yeah, and I think that really goes down to knowing what your state will allow you to demand,
right,
and what your state will allow you to recover. Because what Chase was talking about with the collateral source rule in Georgia, some states don't have that, and you can't claim the full gross amount of your medical bills. But either way, you need to be familiar with the law in your state as to what you're allowed to demand, and then also you need to be aware of what specifically you will need to support those items of damages. So for medical bills, it's pretty simple. You get your medical bill, compile them, whatever. For your lost wages, it may be different depending on whether you're a W-2 employee, a 1099 contractor, a business owner. If you have multiple jobs, all that kind of stuff, you need to figure out how you're going to support that specific claim for lost wages in the past, and then are you going to miss work into the future? I think also before you start demanding money from an insurance company, you need to know how much insurance coverage is available.
Right.
Because the laws of different states, what they allow you to do and how they allow you to do it will play a big factor in how much you're going to demand and whether you're going to give the insurance company a chance to settle the case within its policy limits. So if you have $50,000 of damages and the person that hits you only has 25 and you don't have any underinsured motorist coverage, if it's a car wreck, for example, then you have a decision to make. Are you going to try to just settle for the 25, or are you going to insist that the insurance company pays 25 and the person that hits you pays additional money on top of that? There's advantages and disadvantages to whatever decision you make, but that decision needs to be made based on a complete understanding of the law in your state, and that way you can make an educated decision on the best way to handle your specific situation.
Right, and you bring up a good point about knowing the laws in your state too, because in Georgia, for instance, we can find out pre-suit or pre-claim even, obviously, about how much insurance there is that's available, right? Some states don't allow that. Tennessee, for example, you can't find out what the policy limits are for the person that hit you, so you don't really know what you're demanding based on what's available, if that makes sense. So it definitely varies from state to state. I think this is kind of the theme of all of our videos, is you need to speak with a lawyer in your state, in your county, at least initially, to get some general information about how best to go about pursuing a claim, and even if you need to hire a lawyer to pursue a claim and make that demand.
Yeah, and also in most scenarios, it's going to be a good idea to put any demand that you make to the other party or to their insurance company in writing. Sometimes just writing a letter and slapping a stamp on the envelope and sending it off, or just sending an email to the adjuster is not good enough. It can work, but sometimes doing that will eliminate remedies you may have later on if the insurance company doesn't do the right thing and pay you, which in Georgia we refer to it as bad faith cases, which is different than what we get contacted about a lot when some of you watch our videos and you say, for example, somebody commented the other day that one insurance company paid a claim where somebody else sued them without telling them, and they thought that was bad faith for them doing that. Well, that's not bad faith. What we're talking about is when an insurance company is presented with an opportunity to settle a claim against its insured or the person that hurt you for an amount within its policy limits, and it doesn't do that, then its insured could bring a claim against it later on. But there are certain remedies that come after the fact that will, whether those remedies are available to you will depend on the manner in which you send the demand, whether it's in writing, whether it follows certain statutory requirements and all that kind of stuff. So speaking of getting a lawyer, that's a good reason to do it, because sometimes people have walked away with a lot more money because they hired a lawyer that sent the demand in a right way that made those other remedies available to them after they went to trial and got a verdict.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, long story short, if you're going to demand money from an insurance company, you got to have the evidence to back it up. You got to have the evidence to prove that whatever the incident wasn't your fault. You got to have the evidence to support your claim that you were injured. You got to have the evidence to support the amount of your damages, medical bills, lost wages, and you got to have a general idea of what your intangible or pain and suffering damages are worth. And just keep in mind that the more intense you're suffering and the longer that you suffer, especially if it's a permanent injury, you should demand more for those cases than a case where, you know, you're sore for 3 weeks and then you're all better, right? Which makes complete sense. But I think that's about it for demanding money from an insurance company.
Yeah, for sure. Moral of the story is call a lawyer.
Yeah. All right, well, if this video has been helpful to you, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, we will see you next week. As personal injury lawyers, we love what we do, and we're happy to share the experience that we've gained in personal injury law. To help our family, friends, and YouTube subscribers, we've shared over 300 personal injury videos covering various injury topics. So if you'd like to gain more knowledge that may help protect yourself or a loved one when they're on the roads or out in public, check out our channel or view our playlist of shorts for quick personal injury tips.